I think for me, you know, when I do panels like this, why do I do it, right? Well, I do it because I want most of all for us to be able to have a sensible, fair conversation about marijuana where we can listen to one another without going too crazy. I learned this lesson a few years ago. I wrote an editorial that I thought was very mild, where I expressed some concerns, and then I looked at the comments the next day, and you'd think that I was the devil incarnate, you know. And people say, oh my God, I didn't mean to be inflammatory. Sometimes I do, but I didn't. That time I didn't, I really didn't. And so I think I'm going to try again today. Maybe it'll be better, easier this time. And I'll say, I'm kind of a worrier by nature. Some of that is what seat I have professionally, right? I'm an addiction treatment guy, so I see people with addictive disorders, right? So I'm more likely than other people to say, oh my God, I'm really worried about this. That's a bias that I have. I'm not getting an adequate sort of a random sample of the population. I'm seeing the people that have had problems, right? Or who are more at risk to have problems than others. So what am I worried about? Well, first, what am I not worried about? Not worried about CBD. No worries there. That's pretty good stuff, I think. You know, not concerned about it. Not the same thing as THC. A lot of confusion about that. You guys talked about that. Not worried about it. I'm not worried about casual users of marijuana who are adults, for the most part, right? Just like I don't worry about casual drinkers, right? Very similar kind of thing. People that use a little bit of something once in a while, they're unlikely to run into a problem with it. I'm glad that we're not going to arrest them for it. That never made sense to me. I didn't agree with it, and I don't agree with it now. So I think that's probably a good thing, step in the right direction. But what do I worry about? Well, I worry about the changing public perceptions of things. I worry that as this becomes a more normalized part of our culture, and it is becoming that despite maybe some people wanting to put the brakes on it, it seems to be happening, that as that happens, more people will use, and more young people will use. And I'm a bit worried that it won't just be random young people. It will be young people that already have had kind of a hard start in life. You know, maybe some trauma, maybe some difficulty, maybe some loss, maybe some family history of addiction. And so it's sort of like when you open a casino in an area. You know, there's a certain population that's going to be hurt by that. And there's a certain population that I think is going to be hurt by this. And that hurts me a little because I can sort of see it. I can make guesses about who is going to be in the community. Because often they're people that we're already encountering because they've had other sorts of difficulties, right? Who's likely to develop an addictive problem with marijuana or to develop any sort of problem with it? Well, it's people that have a personal or family history of addiction to marijuana or other substances, right? If you have some bad genetics, that's true. If you start using early, right, that's a major risk factor. That's where this delay thing comes from. If you don't use until you're an adult, not just marijuana, but alcohol and other drugs, you're actually not likely to develop an addiction to it. It's why the drinking age is 21. There's a million years of research about this. Maybe not that long, but a lot of research about this. That if you really could do it, then you'd have a lot less alcoholics in the world, and also addicts to other sorts of substances too. So early use, genetics, and then sort of the difficult early environment makes people more likely to use also. And these things affect people a little bit differently, drug to drug, but it is true with marijuana. And so I'm concerned about that, and I worry a little bit that we haven't done enough to address that as a part of the sort of process of marching forward with this. Because although a lot of people will smoke marijuana, only maybe 15% will develop problems with it. But that 15% will consume almost the entire supply of marijuana that flows into the state. Isn't that amazing? A small percentage of people will use almost all of the drug. And it's that group that I'm really worried about because I see them in my office and they're suffering from this drug addiction and from other drug addictions at a rate that is a little bit astounding and problematic. And I think Vermont is a little on the sort of exceptional side with this. We're on the sort of higher end of the total drug use trends, total youth trends, binge drinking trends, young adult cocaine use, And of course, you know, we've been a part of this opioid thing for far too long. And so I just think we need to be extraordinarily careful. And if we do move to a regulated marketplace, is the last thing I'll say, I'm worried about the advertising that's going to come with that, because it's, the state won't be able to restrict that. Because it's illegal at the federal level, and the state can't set up a state-run monopoly under those circumstances. And so people will have a First Amendment right to market it how they want, just like they used to do with cigarettes before these decades-long lawsuits got settled. And we know what happened there is that the companies that want to sell it to people will want to sell it to the people that use it the most, right? They'll want to create more heavy users of the product. And so they'll target vulnerable people, and they'll target children, and it'll be decades before we can put that back in the bottle. So we should go into this with eyes wide open.